Hi there, Andrew Kalita from On Demand HR here. Today we're going to be discussing what is no doubt one of the hot HR topics of 2023, and that is international migration and working visas. And to help us unpack this, we're joined by Melanie Macfarlane, who founded Migration back in 2007, and today has a staff of over 100 people assisting in the process as a registered migration agent. So really looking forward to digging into her perspective, experience, and thoughts on migration as it relates to Australian businesses for 2023 and beyond. What are your thoughts? If you had your put your crystal ball on or gaze into your crystal ball, what do you think is going to happen to our migration market in the next 3 to 5 years? You mentioned earlier we're hopeful maybe by the end of 2023 or early 2024 that we may return to pre-pandemic kind of levels. Do you think that that's going to continue? We're going to potentially chase those lost years throughout the COVID pandemic. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think I really do believe that the numbers are coming back. In terms of the migration program, it's very interesting, and I'm constantly looking into my crystal ball on this, and that's why I do a lot of reading of what government is looking at and what they're doing. And of course, when the Labor government came in last year, we were all wondering what changes would come in, because Labor was talking about creating more permanent visas than temporary. And that's exactly what they did. They created 195,000 places as opposed to 160,000 that the previous government had reduced the migration numbers to per year for the quota for permanent visas. So that in itself is quite something. I have a slight concern about what they're doing with the temporary visas, because there needs to be recognition by government that temporary visas have to be held onshore, because you can't bring everybody in from overseas. It's actually good to have a temporary cohort in Australia for a while to acclimatise, integrate and so on, and to already be paying taxes, and then to, for example, with employer sponsorship or skill migration, to apply onshore here in Australia. So I'm very hopeful about the permanent numbers going up, and that's great. I find it interesting that the government has just cut the business investor program completely. So no more business investors, which some are up in arms about, because they say that brings in a lot of money for the economy. But I would say that means that there's going to be more emphasis on young, skilled migrants. So more emphasis on those permanent residents coming from overseas. And what I'm hoping is that with the numbers of international students coming back again, there will be a lot who will actually be able to come to stay in Australia, who obviously have the appropriate skill sets and that are needed in Australia. And finally, with this migration review that's taking place at the moment, I think that was possibly the first part of it, which was the business investor scheme being cut out completely of the equation. It's going to be interesting to see. There's been a lot of talk about in the future an emphasis on employer sponsorship, because that's a way you can see that people are definitely paying taxes and so on, and they are actually working in the area in which they're skilled, because sometimes overseas skilled migrants will arrive, they'll find it difficult sometimes to get straight into that position and so on. So perhaps we'll see an increasing emphasis on employer sponsorship